All right, so today I want to talk about the perspective grid in depth because I think it's a tool that everybody uses but can easily start to move away from when it gets a little challenging. So I picked a clip that I think purposely has a few things going on that make it a little bit of a challenge and could be a situation where maybe you'd walk away from it and find another way to execute what you're trying to do. So here is the clip. We're going to take a look at this in two parts. One will tackle this rotating sign, and then we'll also get this top marquee. Initially, when I looked at the clip, I thought this would be the harder thing to track, but it turns out this is probably what would give people the most amount of frustration. So we'll walk through both, and hopefully you'll pick something up along the way. We'll just start with an action node. We're going to load the perspective grid, and I'm just going to position it into the corners since this is the area that I would most likely consider to be our planar surface and what I will be replacing. If I'm not perfect, it doesn't quite matter, but I do want to try to line up as much of the grid on the typography as I can. It'll just make things a little bit easier when I go to do any kind of replacement. So for our purpose right now, let's just kind of do this a little bit and actually let's bring this down. That looks pretty good. So double click the perspective grid. I'm going to go into tracking. I'm going to go ahead and hit snap and hit F8 so we can see what we are sampling. And now I'm just going to let it run until it will eventually get held up. So as you can see, it stopped here. I also did not have auto update reference on, so we were getting a little bit more pixel perfect and not re-snapping on every frame. Let me show you the difference on what would happen if I had auto update reference on. So I'm going to undo all this, turn on auto update reference, and you'll see the track will go further, but that's also because it's resampling as it moves along, so the accuracy has dropped significantly. So it made it through the track, but a lot of this is unusable anyway, and we would have to start redoing frames from our last good frame. We could possibly resnap, we could do a few things, but ultimately it's probably not going to be the solution that I want to work from. So we'll just redo this again. I've turned auto update reference off. I'm going to analyze until, again, we've hit this kind of breaking point. Again, just so you can see what happens if I hit snap, we've now set a new reference frame. If I hit analyze from here, you can see it did a pretty good job of staying within those boundaries, so that might very well be pretty usable, and I'll go ahead and keep those frames just to see what happens. But from here, I'm kind of stuck, and so the way around this, in case you were unaware, is I can draw a garbage mask and have it parented to our perspective grid and just find a new area to go ahead and sample our frames from. So I can see that even though we've lost our corners, this type right here with the orange and the black have a lot of contrast. They're in the frame, they're still lit, and if I go ahead and tell the perspective grid to be inclusive of the garbage mask that I just set and hit snap, you'll now see that we are now sampling from our garbage mask area. So when I hit analyze from here, you'll see that we are able to complete the solve all the way till the end, and it used this part of the planar surface as its material to source from. So now to check this, let's go ahead and just drag in our layer. You want to always make sure that it doesn't have any position data kind of attached to the axes. And now when we go into our grid and hit 2D and invert, and if I hit F4 to see the result view, we're now seeing our perspective grid. Let me hide this garbage mask, just the H key. So now we are looking at our stabilized view of that image. So let me play it through. And yeah, that looks pretty rock solid, so we can go ahead and do our replacement and then invert it as we need to, which we can do at a later time. For the more challenging one, a lot of the same steps will be in place, but we'll just go a little bit further and dive into it a little bit more. Still set up our perspective grid. Again, trying to line up the verticals as best we can. I'm going to go ahead and take it to the edge of the sign. Here we don't see a corner, but that's okay. I'm just trying to, again, find something vertical to kind of just help me line it up a little bit better, since I can't see quite to the edge. That seems pretty good. Now, in this particular case, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and do a garbage mask for the sign that rotates. I'm going to try to occlude it from our solve, so best to just deal with it ahead of time. So I'll just drag out a fresh garbage mask. I do not want it parented to the perspective grid, so this will be free floating. And now from here, I can just, let's do that again. Start drawing a roto shape. Nothing too fancy. Obviously, I want to be as tight to this sign as possible, so we can get as much data as we can out of this. And now I'll just kind of go through and keyframe things. Let me hide this grid so we can see a little bit better. Now we'll just kind of go through, not be too precious. I could track it. I'm just not doing that, just for showing a different alternate to what you might do on any given day. So we'll just kind of bring this up. Again, hugging pretty tightly, because this information right here is going to become pretty important. And I want to make sure I can get as much of that as possible. So there we go. And let's take it to the end. The reason why this shot becomes tricky is obviously because we lose so much data going off screen, and we only have this little sliver to kind of work with, and that can become a real challenge for staying on the same planar surface. So I'm just checking the roto now, just going through it. Seems pretty good. So we've done our roto. We have our grid. I'm just going to show that again. And I think we can do the same thing where we're going to take it as far as we can to see how long it will stick for before we run into an issue. So I double click the perspective grid, I go to tracking. I'm going to hit F8 so we get into our kind of perspective grid view. Hit snap. And as you can see right now, it's including the sign, which we don't want. So we'd like to exclude the sign. Oops. So we're going to say exclusive of the media G mask that we set. And now you see this sign is occluded from the perspective grid. So it will not consider that when it does its tracking. I'm going to keep auto update reference off again, and we'll just see how far we can track this before we have a problem. Okay, so as you can see, this is pretty darn good all the way pretty much until it stops. Let's just frame through. So it's been able to kind of get all this data right here. I'm not seeing the grid do any super erroneous things except for right here. So on that last frame where it did stop, it's not good. So I just deleted that frame. But everything up until then is great. This is where the challenge comes, because you don't really have enough information to garbage mask right here. Don't think it's going to get you all the way. But this is pretty much on the same plane. So if we look at this guitar, I mean, it could very much just be an extension of this sign. So I think we are going to use that to help our solve. So we're going to drag out a fresh garbage mask, make sure it's parented to the perspective grid. And now from here, I'm just going to grab some of the areas that I think might be good to help be considered on this same plane. And you can drag out as many as you want. It does not have to be just one big one. So this might be a good shape to consider. And then, you know, I also want to include maybe some of this sign right here, because this part is super usable and feels like would be a good addition to the solve, because we can certainly extrapolate from that. So now if I double click the perspective grid again and hit snap with the inclusive G masks on, it's now only considering those 3 areas that I have a garbage mask for. And that's exactly what we want, and it's still including this part of the world sign. So now we've snapped, and I will just hit analyze again. Auto update reference on, not sure if we're going to need or not. Let's just see how far we can get with this. I mean, it went to the end. I can see, let's see, a little bit. You know, it might be okay. So I think, oh, there we go. We have a little bit of a pop. Did that pop happen sooner? You know what, just in case, I'm going to go back a few frames. So I'm going to just move this into position. We're going to do the same thing. I'm just being extra cautious. I could test it and see if it all worked out, but in this particular case, it's all good practice anyway. I see that I had set a key already, so I just want to make sure that I delete these keys. I won't need them. Okay, so now we're going to kind of do the exact same thing we just did, but we've just jumped back a few frames. So now we're going to analyze from frame 1056 on. And let's see how... I don't quite see that pop. This last frame is a little bit wonky. So I'm just going to delete this last frame. And you know what? I could probably just hit skip and just kind of set that frame at the end, or I mean, maybe now we just snap on this last frame and hit analyze, which did exactly pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to hide all of these garbage masks as I don't need them. I'm going to parent the source footage underneath the grid. Again, I just want to make sure that there's no keyframe or any data on the axis. And now when I switch to grid, 2D, and hit invert and switch to my result view, F4, we are now going to see the Ernest Tubb record store or record shop pretty much stabilized. Let me add another layer and turn off the background so we can see clearly. So we'll do it this way. I'll assign this media as layer 1, turn our background off, and now we have a nicely stabilized signage. And from here, let's see, I said I would do the invert just to make sure everyone can see it. So just for the proof of concept, we will put something on this. We will get rid of this R. R had a horrible accident and is now gone. So now I just want to duplicate this action. We're going to keep our background as the same. And I just want to feed in our paint with its alpha. And to invert everything, I just need to literally turn off the invert button, and you can see it's already in place. I had turned the background off, so now the background is back on. I'll hit the I key to just turn off all the icons, and there we go. Stabilization has been inverted and the sign has been retouched. The takeaway really from all of this was more or less just to remind yourself that you don't have to stick to the boundaries of the perspective grid. Anything that is on the same plane, including probably this sign down here, would have worked really well. Also, you can use to kind of be part of your data set. And I think once you start to understand that the perspective grid has this much range, I think you can really utilize it and have it work for you really well in your kind of flame workflow. So I hope this helps. Please reach out if you have any questions. And I've never said this before, but if you do like these videos, please if you are able and wanting to subscribe so you see more of them, please do so, because that's an easy way for me to keep feeding the machine and making them and spending time to give you guys what you're asking for. So I really do appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun making them. I've really appreciated all the feedback, and I look forward to doing this more and more frequently. So thank you. Have a good day and reach out with any questions. Bye.